Well, hello everyone, and welcome to day 2. We're going to be talking all about how to help our kids cope with difficult emotions, attitudes, and behaviors, and how do we cope with our kids' emotions, attitudes, and behaviors. And so if you are here and you are struggling today, you are in the right place. We are doing a deeper dive from yesterday. I have so many great questions to ask you for us to reflect. I am so excited about what I'm going to share with you today. And I know you're going to get so much value from what I'm going to share and great insights that you often don't hear when it comes to raising tweens and teens. So I was going, before we hit record, I was reading some of the comments. And one of the things that I love the most about all of you and this community and our inner circle membership is that we are all in this together and we're all going through similar things and similar challenges and similar struggles. And we need each other. We need to know that we're not alone, that something is not wrong with us, something is not wrong with our kid. Yes, nothing is wrong with your kid. If you're coming here and you are feeling like something is definitely wrong with them, we're going to talk about how you can support them and how you can actually turn the Titanic around. And there is so much hope for you here. So I love for you to share because everybody benefits because you read it and you are like, yes, I'm going through the same thing. So use the chat through this whole thing and make sure you hit everyone. And those of you watching the replay, I just want you to know I'm so glad that you're watching the replay because it's easy to sign up and not watch the replay. So, okay. So Amy says she has two girls, 15 and 16. And let's see here, make sure to hit everyone. With the younger being so neurodivergent, and then add more. I can guarantee the oldest has ADHD. I'd love to be with those who can relate since others don't truly understand. Isn't that the truth? That others cannot understand. If you're not in that boat, and I will tell you, I already see so many names here showing up of moms that are part of our inner circle that totally relate with this. It feels like it's a whole different ball game that you're playing. And you can look around outside of yourself and it's like, wow, look at that mom. Look how great she is doing with her kids. And here I am over here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm failing. I'm dealing with these kids and I have no idea what to do. I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I'm defeated. I feel hopeless. I feel powerless. If you're feeling like that, you can just raise your hand, or you don't even have to raise your hand. Just know I've been there and I know, thank you. I see one of you raising your hand, what that feels like. And my my goal is for you to leave with hope and just a new outlook and a new way of viewing your kid and how you can support them. So let me keep reading. I digressed and I would love to gain some info to help me better understand the waves of emotions my youngest has. Also help me to help my oldest as well going through the everyday life of a teenager and a teenager with a sister who is different from her. Amy, thank you for sharing that. When you have a kid that is neurodiverse and there's a sibling involved, it is not only difficult for you, it's difficult for the sibling. There can be lots of sibling fighting, a lot of emotions. How do you handle that? You know, you feel like, oh, my teenager doesn't get this, my other kid that's really struggling. I can't tell you how many moms that I work with that have that dynamic in their family. And you always kind of feel like you're jumping in because you want to rescue the one, but then you feel guilty for the other because the one is taking so much attention away from the family. Anybody in that boat and relating. So you're in good company. And yes, we are going to be diving into that. I'm Liz. I have a 14-year-old girl about to put herself out there and take a big risk with a big audition, big emotions now and to follow. Oh gosh, good for her that she is going for it. that she is trying out. And yes, there's a lot of emotions with all of that. I am a mom of an 11-year-old boy. His emotions, especially his anxiety, are getting bigger and stronger. Oh, yeah, Suzanne, you're in the right place here. This is Sarah. This is my third time going through this workshop, and I gain something new every time. I've been an Inner Circle member for 3 years and love Cheryl, Jen, and all the members. I'm from Southeast Wisconsin and have two boys, both neurodivergent, 15 and 17. I love that you're here, Sarah. She is such a vital part of our membership. So I just love seeing you here. Christine, we have a 14-year-old son, also 28 daughter, 32-year-old son. I live in Charlotte, but we are from Washington State. And thank you, Sarah. And Amanda, I'm neurodivergent. Yes, me too. How many of us here? So just share where you're from, the ages of your kids. I have one confirmed ADHD, two unlikely undiagnosed, as well as myself. Yes. Yeah, Inner Circle. Yep, I got it, Sarah. So welcome. You're in good company here, and I want to welcome you. If you didn't come yesterday, you want to go back. We talked all about understanding, and really understanding our kids is the beginning of positive change and transformation in your family. Because if we don't really understand what's going on, then we're not going to be effective. We're not going to be able to influence our kids. We're not going to be able to even begin to know how to support them. And we're going to have all of this reactivity because we're not understanding what is going on with them. And it's this dance that we end up doing where we're fighting. And I shared my story with my daughter and what I did not understand and what I wish that I would have understood that would have made a humongous difference in the way that I would have supported her and responded to her. So, all right, quickly, I'm going to read 14-year-old girl that has anxiety and ADHD. Yeah, you're in good company. I am overwhelmed. I can't find anything that motivates her. She is great outside of the home, but here she is constantly yelling. She only wants to eat sweets and then hides the wrappers, thinking that we won't find out. We have had to lock everything up because she just wants to take what she wants, like makeup, even though she has her own. Ah, right? She misplaces her stuff and then takes mine instead. I am feeling with you, Elizabeth. That is so hard. And I know that today is going to help you. I want you to know, I want to read every single one of your messages, and I do. I have the whole chat from yesterday. I printed it out and I read it all, but for the sake of time, and I'm going to ask you more questions, I'm not going to do that. I just want to go over a few things. There's going to be more prizes today. So congratulations yesterday to those of you that won a $10 Amazon gift card. And today I'm giving away 8 $15 Amazon gift cards. And the word that I'm going to use, and don't type it now because I'm going to do it at the end, is going to be pumpkin. Pumpkin. Okay. So the first 15 to type in first 8 to type in pumpkin will win from me an Amazon gift card. Tomorrow it's going to be $20. Now, let me just say, if you won yesterday, you can't win twice. So I'm sorry about that, but there'll be more workshops where we do this. And then tomorrow it's going to be $20. Make sure that in the chat, you type in everyone so we do not miss it. At the end, the last 30 minutes, I'm going to answer your questions. So as I go through this, you are going to have some questions come up for you. Put them in the chat. I also hope that you printed out your workbook that you got. And this is going to be really helpful, and I will give you the cheat sheet. So just know that, okay? So let's dive in. Yesterday, we talked about understanding and why that is so important. And so many of you were sharing in the chat and sharing your struggles and shared at the end your takeaways. And it was just such a touching time to me to see you all engaging and sharing. And that is what we are all about here at Moms of Tweens and Teens. It's being in this together. And it's so beautiful to me and touching. And it's what gets me up every morning. It's what gets Jen up every morning, is to be able to create such a beautiful community of moms where we can all share our struggles and our challenges. And I love that we had a grandmother on here and we had social workers on here, and just we have dads that come, and it's just a beautiful community. So I never want to, I say moms, but I mean caregivers, grandmas. I just use that in a broad sense. Anybody that is influencing the life of a tween or teen. So I want to start out with a reflection question. Some of you have already shared, and share this briefly. What emotions, attitudes, or behaviors from your tween or teen are you most struggling with right now? Okay, so share in the chat, and this can just be one word, anger, defiance, ADHD, unmotivated, don't care, right? Who here want anger? Thank you. Irritated, coping, motivation, instant gratification, Kelly, yes, Amanda, all of the above, disrespect, manipulation, disorganized. Oh man, Sonia, isn't that hard? Trying to get them to do homework. It's like pulling teeth. Stuck, Lauren, stuck. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I don't care. Apathy, all of the above. Yes, make sure to choose everyone. Argumentative, knowing it all. Oh man, isn't that something? When they know it all. Overcommitting and under-delivering. Yes, Lori. Yep, the biggest issue, my daughter doesn't get the social cues from others, so they don't want to be around her. How painful. I just want to pause, and I just want to hold all of this right now and say, wow, thank you for sharing where you're at. It's heavy, isn't it? It's exhausting. It's overwhelming. Keeps us up at night. I know you're all amazing. I took out Wonder Woman yesterday. She's still here. You are, that you're just showing up here. You're amazing. Just, I want us to give that to ourselves, because we can feel like we're failing. We can feel like we're screwing it all up. And I want you to know you are not. You are here. And I want you to give that to yourself. So thank you for sharing that. And the first thing that I want to talk about, we touched on this a little bit. I'm going to put Wonder Woman to the side. And we touched on this a little bit. But this is so important, vital, because this is what all of the research shows. And we're going to drill down around our three greatest needs. These are the three greatest needs of your tweens and teens, of your kids, of everybody living on the planet. And we're going to talk about what they are. And we're also going to reflect on, I have different questions. So make sure you have a pen and paper so you can write some things down. You don't have to madly take notes, but just so you can take a time of reflection. And then we're going to talk about in detail how to meet these needs. Because here's the thing, what you often will hear here at Moms of Tweens and Teens isn't what you're going to get other places, because we go a little bit deeper. I don't just want to give you a little Band-Aid to slap on the pain. I want you to have lasting change in your home. I want you to have the kind of relationship with your kids that you've always wanted to have. I want you to change generational patterns in your family. And we need support to be able to break those patterns. So we're going to be talking from a place of, how do we transform what's going on in our families? How do we support our kids that really, frankly, are really hard to support and really difficult. And we're coming and we're exhausted. How do we do that? And we're going to drill it down and we're going to make it more simple for you. And I'm actually going to give you some things that you can reframe how you see things in a way that is going to bring about that lasting change that you want to see. So the first thing that I'm going to give you is the 3 S's, okay? This is backed by research, and this was originally coined by Dan Siegel, and it's in his book, Showing Up is where he really talks about it. And that's a great book. And the 3 S's, I'm just going to read them to start with, are safe. These are our emotional needs. We need to feel safe. And this isn't just safe physically, this is safe emotionally as well. That's what we're going to be focusing on. Being seen, which we talked about yesterday a little bit, which is really the act of listening, seeking to understand, and validating our kids. We'll dig into that. And soothed. When it comes to coping with difficult emotions, so many emotions are going on underneath your kid's surface. They're maybe really angry up here, and maybe you've received our anger iceberg. I know our inner circle members have, that they might be yelling, like the mom that said, my kid is just yelling all the time. So was my daughter. But what I didn't realize is underneath that anger, there were so many other emotions that were going on. And our kids, because we talked yesterday about their amygdalas are lit up and they're in that fight, flight, freeze mode. Some of your kids are frozen. I heard stuck. They're paralyzed. They're not moving. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Some of your kids are fighting all the time. Some of your kids are fleeing from things. They just run away. They're in their rooms. They're hiding out. They're feral cats. Get out of my room. And so we're going to figure out, how do we soothe our kids? How do we provide for that? How do we soothe ourselves? Because we talked about yesterday the 2 main emotions, fear and love. And we can be really afraid, can't we? With everything that's going on, like we're losing control. And I don't know what to do here. So safe. So what does safe mean? I want you, and this is going to be your reflective question, and I want you to share in the chat. What makes you, and we're not talking about physical safety here, okay? So I just want to be clear. We're talking about emotional safety. What makes you or tends to cause you to feel unsafe with someone? So think of somebody in your life that you think, I'm not going to share that with them. What causes you to not feel safe to share? Judgment, yes. Lack of trust, right? Maybe they're going to go tell somebody else. Talk about me behind my back. When they laugh or mock me. Suzanne, that's good. When they laugh or mock me. Kate, being judged. Sarah, not feeling listened to, not feeling heard. Lack of understanding, being misunderstood. They don't get me, right? They don't understand. Lack of honesty, Gwen, that's a good one. Yeah, I don't know if I can trust you because I don't think you're going to tell me the truth. When they judge other people's kids, yes, Shannon, yeah, I'm not going to tell her because she's talking about somebody else's kids. So you better believe and you better watch out. She's not going to be the one I'm going to be telling because she's going to be talking about me to somebody else. Exactly. Amanda, not feeling appreciated. How many of you are coming here and you don't feel appreciated because you're working so hard? Yes, lack of concern. Do you, Christine, thank you. Do you really care about me? Melody, telling me what I did wrong. Aren't these good? Isn't this helpful when we think about that and we think about our kids? Really helpful to reflect on what causes us not to feel safe with someone. Now I want you to think about somebody in your life that you feel really safe with? What makes you feel safe with that person? And if you even want to share who it is, who has that person been for you? Claudia accepted. Yeah. Amanda, my husband. That is good. My mom. Not everybody has that, right? She just listens. My bestie, she listens without judgment. My husband and my sisters, my mom. And some of you are here and you don't have that. And you don't feel like your husband, you and your husband are butting heads, or your ex, or maybe you're a single parent and there's nobody to, wrestle with these things or ask about it. I want to acknowledge you, Kelly. My heart goes out to you. I don't have one. Well, may we be that to you, Kelly, today, because we need that. We need a safe person. And you're not crazy. I just want you to know that, because we need that person in our lives. And the beautiful thing and the hope is that we can find that person, that we are here, right? Moms of tweens and teens, I'm here and I'm here for you. So really good unconditional love. Yes. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you. I'm seeing my therapist, Suzanne, right? Like, can I show up and be my most real self? And I could get choked up because I didn't believe that. I was walking around 20 years ago trying to be perfect. I thought if anybody sees what I'm struggling with, they're going to be hit the road, Jack, right? They're going to be gone. They're not, this is disgusting. Like, that's how harsh I was to myself. I'm going to cry alone in my bedroom because I don't want anybody to see this part of me because they might reject me. And many of you are feeling that way. So we're trying to have it all together. And meanwhile, we're falling apart inside. And so I want us all to know we need to have those people, and we need to do that, start doing that work where we know you. And I'm speaking to you know who I'm speaking to here. You are lovable when you're at your worst. When you're falling apart, when you don't have it all together, you matter and you're lovable. And at our core self, our core being, that is the question we're asking. Will they love me if? Will someone still love me? And so if I'm not trying to hold it together and I kind of let you see my underbelly, you might not. You might reject me. So our kids need to feel safe emotionally, to feel I am loved, even when I'm at my worst. I am accepted, and I am loved and cared for, even when I make mistakes. Now, hear me on this. This doesn't mean that you have to tolerate bad behavior. That's not what we're talking about. And we're going to go into more detail about that. So I am a big internal family systems person. Maybe some of you have heard about internal family systems. And I love this. And we work a lot on this in our membership group on the different parts of ourselves. And internal family systems, just very, very briefly, is this model that has a helpful perspective that all parts of ourselves are welcome here. And what we end up doing is, if you grew up in a home where your emotions were made bad, anger was bad, that was me. Arguing was bad. And there's been so much healing with my mom. My mom was a single mom. There's been so much healing in my relationship with my mom since I started doing this work. But it was bad. Like, you did not argue, you didn't talk back, you didn't disagree. You were in big, big trouble. So what did I do? I shut down those parts of myself. Now, those parts have to come out. They come out, and they come out in different ways: rebellion, drinking, all the different, staying busy, eating. And internal family systems talks a lot about that. But we get these core beliefs growing up, like, I'm bad, something is wrong with me. So we all get these messages to varying degrees. And so what we want to start doing is we want to see that all parts of ourselves are information. We're going to talk about a little bit about reparenting today. But all parts of us deserve to be seen and heard and accepted and understood. And that is how we want to start viewing, looking through the lens of being curious about that. So, what does this mean for parenting? It means creating a safe place for our kids where they know that all of their emotions, whether it's fear, anger, sadness, confusion, are valid. And they're met with curiosity, not judgment. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I just want to touch on it. Seen. Okay, so first one, safe. They need to feel safe. Seen. What does seen really mean? Okay, so I want you to think of a time when you felt seen by someone. What did that look like to you? How did it feel? So anyone want to share in the chat? I know that's a little tough one, right? When you feel like somebody truly sees you, what do you feel? I feel acknowledged. I feel listened to. Yes. Yep, Christy. You know what I know? When I truly see somebody, they start shaking their heads. So hopefully you're shaking your head. Yes, validated, worthy, exactly, accepted, not alone. Yeah, Sarah, when they summarize what I've just said, very good. Sarah's in our membership. They have something to offer or contribute. Oh, I bet Kelly has a love language of acts of service. Like, I see you and I am going to do something that matters to you. Yes. Yeah, a little scared because you're putting yourself out there and not sure how they may react. Yes, Amy. So sometimes that's speaking truth. Somebody tells you the truth about yourself, but it's in a loving, accepting way, and you feel seen. It's like, wow, I feel seen. So we're going to talk about what that means. But I believe that when somebody really sees me, they are reflecting back what I'm saying. And see, here's the thing, when it comes to coping with your kids' difficult emotions, behaviors, and attitudes, when they're defiant, when they're disrespectful, when they feel seen by you, heard, understood, it comes down. I want you to think I have a picture of water, and you've got all of these feelings, right? They've got all this stuff and it's just like they're flooded, right? Anxiety. Anybody here suffered from panic attacks? I have. And that was when I was in my tween years, actually. It was after my dad died and I was stuffing everything. And where does it all go? Spilling out. So how do we help our kids to cope? We want to be able to validate their reality. So yesterday we talked about how your tween or teen is trying to figure out who they are. And we talked about how they're trying to figure out who they are, what they believe, what they want, where they fit, how they belong. They're trying on different clothes. They're maybe, painting their nails black. They're dressing goth. They're dyeing their hair. I hear that all the time, by the way. And they're trying on these different behaviors. They're disagreeing with you with something that you've raised them with a value, and they're arguing with you. And you're like, really? Seriously here? And they're self-conscious, right? And they're bombarded with all these messages outside of themselves that they're not good enough. And they have so many thoughts in their head, and they do not even begin to know you, to know, not know you, but know how to be able to articulate all of those thoughts going on in their head. And when you feel seen, you feel like, wow, just like you're sharing, somebody gets me. I make sense. Oh, I'm not crazy. When I have a friend that says, I have my two grandkids living with us right now, and we just moved, and I was sharing with my support people in my life, like I am just really struggling right now. I'm really discombobulated. I just feel like, wah, right? They're like, of course you do. Like, Cheryl, you've got all this stuff going on. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. I immediately feel like, because when we're anxious, we're like, oh, I just want to get rid of it, right? Your kids, like, I don't want to feel this way. But when somebody sees you and goes, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, we go, right? We just feel so much better. And that's what we need. And that's what our kids need. So the third goes with it. So safe, feel safe, I'm accepted. And that's not easy, right? When you've got defiant behavior, how do you sift through that one? We'll talk about it. And then safe, seen, and soothed. We all need that. We all need to feel soothed, comforted. When you're struggling next time, ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need? We are so focused on what everybody else needs around us. I remember the first time my therapist said to me, what do you need, Cheryl? You're talking all about, your husband, your daughter, your kids, the dog. What do you need? I'm like, wow, I have never had anybody in my life ask me that. What do I want? And I'm 40 years old when I got asked that question for the first time. I might have been 42. And I had never thought about that. So it's really important. What do we need? And a lot of times it's just comfort. It might just be a hug. And we often don't ask that. So our kids need to be soothed. And we're going to talk about how we do that. I'm safe. I'm accepted. I believe you hear me. I'm validated with how I feel. And I make sense. So here's another reflective question. I think this is so good because I don't think that we ask ourselves this enough. Let's just kind of wade through all the stuff that you're dealing with: the unmotivated kid, the defiant kid, the kid that doesn't care, the kid that seems like they hate you right now, the ADHD kid, the anxious kid, the autistic kid, all the stuff, the one that's fighting with their siblings, the one that's making you walk on eggshells. And I just want you to think about what, when you just part the water, right? What are 4 words? Or let's not do 4. I think that's too hard. What are 3 words that you want your kids to use to describe how they feel when they're with you? 3 words. Let's just have one. Okay, 1, 2, or 3. But write down. I want you to share them in the chat. And yes, Christy, a kid that hates hugs, they do. Remember, they're like a feral cat right now. So if you have a kid that doesn't want to hug you, it's totally understandable. And some kids just don't like. I have one that loves hugs. I have another one does not want to be touched. So they're all different too. Safe, loved, and supported. Thank you, Dory. Christine, safe, understood, confident. He is just enough as he is. Kate, yes. Supported, accepted, their go-to place. Love, safe, relaxed to be himself. Enough, accepted and loved. Christine, connected. Isn't that good? Because it kind of shifts. What do we want, right? Because I'm going to tell you, my kids are older, and it's I think really an asset to what I do because I have some long-term perspective of all the things that I really focused on and worried about when they were in the tween teen years. You know what? And my kids all took different paths, let me tell you. And my oldest, it was a real crooked, windy road with lots of speed bumps and potholes, let me tell you. And just trying really hard not to fall in the pit right along with her. And a lot of like trying to pull her out, right? Not rescue her too much, but pull her out. And all the stuff, a lot of that stuff that I focused on, it was just didn't really matter. Really didn't matter. The words that you wrote down, that's what matters. because that's what's going to help them to cope. And so if we can keep that as our North Star and not shame ourselves, not blame ourselves. I know you so well. You are like shaming and blaming yourself right now. You're like, oh, my kid does not feel accepted by me. Or I just took him to school today and I screamed at him on the way to the, in the car. No, no, no. Research shows if you do this 40% of the time, you're doing an amazing job. So do not panic, and you are here. So how do we help them cope? So let's dig into this. So there are 4 essential keys to helping them to cope with difficult emotions, attitudes, and behaviors. And these fit underneath the safe, the seen, and the soothed. This is basically how you do it, okay? Now, number 1 is you seek to connect with their heart above all else. You seek to connect with their heart above all else. And you're like, their heart, it's totally walled off. I understand. Their heart is so closed up and so far away. And I'm trying, Cheryl, and I don't know how to get to it because they hate me right now. They don't even want to talk to me right now. I don't know how to do that. Well, here's the thing. Some of you are here and you have a lot of inflammation in your relationship. And there's a lot of arguing and there's a lot of disagreeing and strife. And so the question I have for you is how do we, when we're in that place, get the inflammation down? What does that look like? And you don't have to have the answer. Just being in the question, my inner circle mamas that are here say, I think that oftentimes questions are more powerful than trying to look for the right answer. How do we get the inflammation down? And many of you are here thinking something's wrong with your kid. Who's here? And you're thinking, that Carrie, mind reader, thank you. How many of you are feeling like something's wrong with my kid? I want to know how many of you, and you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable, have had your kid be labeled oppositional, defiant, difficult. Yeah, Claudia, I feel like I'm doing everything wrong. Me, yes. Dramatic, lazy. Yep, strong-willed. Yep, Kim, I keep wondering what I'm doing wrong. Yep, all of the above. Yes. But here's the thing. I hate labels. I had one mom come to me and she said, you know what, Cheryl? And she was in our membership. And this was just a beautiful gift to me working with her because she came to me and she said, I think that my kid is a sociopath. She said, she does not have any empathy and I fight with her all the time. She doesn't care about anybody else. And we started working on these things. And do you know what happened? She got her kid back. She got her kid back. They have a beautiful relationship. And I'm telling you, the relationship was so inflamed. And when your relationship is like that, and you have a kid that is screaming in your face that they hate you, or I mean, my daughter told me I was a psycho and I turned psycho. Okay. When you have a kid that's saying that to you, it's so hard not to react and respond. But labels end up being something we slap on our kids' foreheads. And we label them and then we see them through that lens. They're defiant, they're lazy, they're unmotivated. There's something wrong with them. But see, we are the mirror. We hold up a mirror to our kids, and how we see them and view them is what we often become. So I want you to think about yourself. What label did you get growing up? Yeah. When my child says I'm controlling. Yes, we talked about that a lot yesterday, didn't we? Of course, when you have a kid that lacks brakes and steering, we want to control. When we feel powerless, we want to control. And here's the truth, as soon as we see our kid as bad and we have behavior and we label them as bad, which I did with my daughter, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And I want you to know one thing, okay? Is you have a good kid. Your kid is a good kid. And I'm not excusing their behavior, but we want to be able to support them. And they are a good kid. And here's the truth, all behavior has a need underneath it. There is something going on. And I love Dr. Ross Greene. He wrote The Explosive Child, and he's a clinical psychologist, and um, he works with kids. And what he says is that kids that exhibit challenging behaviors, they want to do well. They want to do well. They just lack the skills to know how to do well. And the more that they get that behavior slapped on them, as you know, that label slapped on them, we pigeonhole them. One thing, yeah, okay, I want to read this. I was overly talkative and called a tornado. I have labeled my son antisocial. I love that you're saying it, right? Antisocial. And it's just so good. What are the labels we're using? Because we all got them. We've all got them. This is my good kid. This is my kid that's easy. They're low maintenance. They do their homework. Now, this is my kid. They are the one that's always causing trouble. Everybody is walking on eggshells around them, right? We label. Let's see. Yeah, my son says he wants a different family. Yeah, Amanda, I know that hurts, doesn't it? When they say something like that. So who else? Who else wants to add? One thing I was told is I'm clumsy. I was told I was clumsy. And you know what? I really became clumsy. I also felt stupid. I felt stupid. I had a lot of learning differences. I had ADHD, which they didn't know anything about back then, and I felt stupid. And I just want you to know you have a lot of labels going on inside of you as well. We all are carrying around these labels. And we have internal, we talk about this, we work on this a lot in the membership. We all have these beliefs like I'm bad, it's my fault, something's wrong with me. But what we want to do is become curious, right? Become curious. Amy, society needs to understand our kids. Exactly. They don't fit the mold of society, so the labels occur and rejection occurs. Yeah. When I don't agree or side with them, they say I don't care about them. Michelle, we will talk about that. That's always a real setup, isn't it? So labels. So here's how we want to connect with our heart. All right. 3 ways: curiosity, non-judgmental listening, and accepting all emotions. Now, these go underneath, just so you know, these go underneath the number 1 key. So number 1 key is seek to connect with our hearts above all else. All right. And then how do you do that? You are curious what's really going on. You non-judgmentally listen, and you accept all emotions. That does not mean that you accept all behaviors. You accept all emotions because they are information. Okay, so what does this look like? What is going on underneath your kids' defiance? What is going on underneath their rudeness? What is really going on underneath them not wanting to do their homework or lacking motivation? What might be really happening? Sarah, who's here in our inner circle, I shared a little bit of her story yesterday, and I just want to share it again because it's really powerful. Her son, he was being defiant and disrespectful, and he was coming home and he was disrespectful. And once she started learning this, she got curious. And she said to him, hey, you're being really disrespectful and acting out, and what's going on with you? I just want to know. And she had been practicing this a little bit, and all of a sudden he did something that she did not expect. And he started sharing that he'd been being bullied. And then he started crying about it. And it opened up a floodgate. And you see, he wasn't talking about, because our kids aren't going to always share things with us. They don't know how to articulate it. They're embarrassed. They have shame. And they don't feel like they can tell us, because we might jump in there and try to fix it. We might get in there. I'm going to call the mom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Now, don't misunderstand me. When bullying's going on, there's steps that we need to take. But when we're very quick to react and try to fix it, that's when they don't want to tell us things. That's when they become like a turtle. And so she was practicing opening the door to having a conversation. And he shared with her, and then she knew how to best support him. So what is going on? That's the question we need to be asking. So what might be the reason? Just being the question. So here's how we might do it, okay? And this is also goes with the non-judgmental listening, all right? So they come home and they're upset because they had a fight with a friend. And instead of offering advice immediately, which we want to fix it, right? We might say, wow, that sounds like that was very frustrating. Or, or really, or what did you do? See, those are some of the things that we can say to get curious. And a lot of times we don't need to say anything. We just can reflect back, non-judgment. And we need to know, like, what do I do and what do I say, rather than being, coming in and wanting to fix. It's just, really? Okay. Tell me what happened. What did you do? All really good things. Wow. Excuse me. Then I'm better than I was yesterday. And then the other essential component of connecting with our heart is embracing and accepting all emotions. So they're not good or bad. It's what we do with them. Remember that your kids, they do not have that emotional regulation. Excuse me. This starts when I start getting hot. I'll try to simmer down. I have all these emotions around what I'm sharing. So when your kid has anger, and I love the anger iceberg, there's a lot going on underneath. And so getting curious and knowing that it's just information. And what happened was, because anger was a bad emotion in my family, the moment that my daughter started expressing anger, I wanted to shut it down. I wanted to dismiss it. I wanted to say, go to your room. I wanted to minimize it. I wanted to make her bad around it, versus getting curious about what it was. And once I learned to start doing that, it looked very different. Very different. I was able to get her tested for ADHD. I was able to support her and validate how she felt. So we want to help our kids. If we want to help them to cope with their emotions, we want to be able to see them, and we want to be able to validate them. It doesn't mean that we accept them. And for those of you that have any questions about that, put it in the Q&A and we can talk more about it. So what is the hardest emotion for you to sit with when your kid expresses it? Who wants to share? Anger, yes. Sadness, anger. Now, disappointment, anger. A lot of angers. Worthless, when they say they feel worthless. They don't, when they're lonely and they're struggling, loneliness. Now I want you to think about yourself. And what is the hardest emotion for you to accept in yourself? And is it similar? Is there a connection? Because for me, there was a connection. Sadness was okay. It was very interesting because sadness was okay. I often would cry when I was angry. And it wasn't really until I learned that anger was okay And it actually was useful because it taught me that I needed to do something about how I was being treated, or I needed to set a boundary. It was good information for me of how I wanted to be treated, what I didn't like. And once I started accepting my own anger, it wasn't until then that I could accept my daughter's. And so then it was really helpful. So if sadness was one for you, maybe in your family, sadness wasn't okay. And so when your kid starts crying, you notice you're really uncomfortable because for you, the rule in your family was don't be sad. Key number two, and I'm looking at the time, so I'll move through these quickly. I love how you're all sharing, by the way. I love the connections that you are making. And Paige says, I feel like a failure 90% of the time. And Paige, my guess would be that you, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here, maybe grew up in a family, maybe, where you didn't feel like it was ever quite good enough and it was your fault. And the reason I say that is because that was one of my beliefs is this must be my fault. And the truth is that our kids at this age, they're going through a really hard time. You know, your kids might be really happy about a lot of things, but this is hard. And we have never navigated this. Nobody taught us how to do this. And our kids are going through a lot of stuff. And so if we got the message growing up that it was our fault, we have this belief that somehow we should be able to fix it. And that if we were just doing a good enough job, this wouldn't be happening. And I just want you to know it is not true. So number two, and this might sound a little weird to you, but number two is don't take the bait. And the reason that I put this is because what gets in the way oftentimes of helping our kids to cope and supporting them with different difficult emotions, behaviors, attitudes, and behaviors is because we take the bait. And many of you have been in this situation where, you know, you might just be sitting at the dinner table and you're having dinner, and all of a sudden your teenager says something like, you ask them how their day is, and all of a sudden they say, fine, but honestly, you're so unfair. And I wish that I was in so and so's family. And in fact, one of you said this, some form of it earlier. And you never let me do anything fun like other parents do. You're so strict. Who's heard that? Who's heard that before? I certainly have. And so what happens when that happens? Right? Me, I have, oh yeah, you are so unfair. I had my oldest daughter would tell me, I wish I could go live at Megan's house. Right? Now, just to give you a little perspective, she told me what was happening at Megan's house and how sad she feels today for Megan, right? Because it was the house where everybody could drink. It was like a free for all, right? There were no rules. And now looking back on it, she knows your kids are smart. They know. But what happens is they throw out a little bit of bait and we go, oh, and it hooks us just like a fish with a hook. And what do? We jump in there, we get baited, we start defending, we start saying, well, you know, your friend's house, their parents let them do anything, everything, they don't have any rules. You know, we might go that direction, or we might be telling them, we might be building our case up why we're saying no and why they should agree with us, which they never do, right? They don't go, oh yeah, mom, you're right. I could see why you don't want me to go to that party because there's all this drinking. No, no, no. They're not going to understand. All they want to do is belong. They don't want to be left out. That's not the way that they think. Their brains are not rational most of the time. Most of the time. They're very smart, but in many ways, they are driven by wanting to belong, wanting to fit in. So instead, when they do that, instead of taking the bait, what we want to be doing, working on, is getting curious again. Ah, I hate hearing that. I hate hearing that. Yeah, I know. I'm sure I must seem unfair. Yeah, you know, we want to diffuse. We don't want to get caught up in the power struggle. Because when we get baited, what happens? We're doing ring around the rosy and we're trying to say who's right and who's wrong. We do this in marriages, we do this in relationships, we do this with our parents, we do this with anybody that we feel criticized by. We can get very defensive. And so if you have a defensive kid, when you start practicing not getting defensive, not taking the bait, they will start learning to not get defensive either. And it's really interesting when I start practicing this, I started going, look for every truth, but look for the truth in every criticism. And I was like, yeah, I can see that it probably feels very unfair to you. Bam, you don't say anything else. What happens? They feel heard. They might say, yeah, I know, you should change your mind. I know, I bet you want me to change my mind. You know, your kid has a brother or sister that has special needs, it's neurodiverse, and it's really hard for them. And so they're arguing a lot, they're mean to their brother. And just to be able to say, you know what, I just want you to know, I bet it's not easy. I bet this is hard for you a lot of the time. Just by saying that, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel validated, and they feel soothed. And it makes a huge difference. So we're going to get hooked. We're just going to. And if we can name it, Dan Siegel, another great Dan Siegel saying, name it to tame it. If we can just name it, oh, there I am. I'm getting hooked. Oh, I hate that. You know, when they say something, doesn't mean you don't say anything. It's like, oh, you know, ouch. You can diffuse it, name it, tame it. A lot of times what I'll say is, I feel like defending, feeling defensive, but I'm not going to get defensive. I'm going to try and listen to what you have to say. Number 3, focus on the positive. How can I focus on the positive? You're probably thinking, how do I begin to focus on the positive when I am in this state of frustration with my kid? I don't want to say out loud that I don't like my kid. I love them, but some days, even when we say unconditional love, it's hard sometimes to love our kids unconditionally. And I'm just saying that because maybe one of you needs to hear that and just be validated that your kid is so tough that some days you're like, I just don't like them very much. I'm having trouble loving them right now because they are hard. And you're so annoyed and you're exhausted. And it's hard to see the positive. It's hard to see the positive. So I want you to think about maybe when you have been disrespectful or rude, or you've said something that you look back on, you're like, oof, I wish I wouldn't have said that, like angry. And I want you to think about what was going on with you when that happened. What was it? Can anybody share? I'm feeling with you, Amanda. It's affecting my health. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I have said to them, I don't always like you, but I always love you. Yep. So I want you to think about that. When you've been rude to someone, when you've been angry, was there something that you can think of that was going on with you? Fear. Good, Christine. Tired. Yep. My stress. Absolute overwhelm, rejection, frustration, agitated. Yep. Those are all good. Overwhelmed. Could this maybe be what happens to our kids? Might they be acting like this because they're feeling this way? So just to be in the question, because we can do it too, right? So if we take all that, kind of push it away, and you think about those labels and those behaviors, we're hardwired to see the negative. And it's really difficult if you're frustrated and you're going through all these things to see the positive. But here's the thing. If you have a really difficult kid, they don't want to be difficult. They really don't. I want you to trust me. They don't want to be difficult. They're just hurting. They're in pain. There's something that they don't know how to articulate what they need. That's where we want to get curious. And so often we treat them like fixer-upper projects, like something is wrong with you that needs to be fixed. I'll just give you a little tweak here. I'll give you a little tweak there. And I'm not saying they don't need correction or direction, but we need to realize how much we focus on the negative, what they're not doing that they need to be doing, what they are doing that's irritating and that we don't like. And I want you to think about a person in your life that has always pointed out things just, aren't quite right with you. They seem to point out what you could do better, or maybe where you're falling short. And how did that make you feel? Yeah, Kelly, I say horrible things to them when my spouse and I are in a fight. Yeah. And then we can just own it, right? Name it to tame it. Oh, you guys, I'm really frustrated right now and I'm having a hard time. And I'm so sorry that I'm taking it out on you. I realize that. And I'm working on this. I'm going to really work on this. We can do it. We can hit the reset button. We can always go back and we can always have a redo. I want to redo that. Can I have a redo? So studies show, the research is overwhelming, that positive feedback, positive reinforcement, noticing what they're doing well, even if it's, thanks for putting your dish in the sink. We think, oh, that's no big deal. We shouldn't say anything. The more that we say, when I say, thanks for cleaning up, you're really helpful. You better believe they want to be helpful. Because why? You slap that label on their forehead, you're helpful. They want to do it more, positive reinforcement. So what we want to try and do is we want to focus more on what's good about our kids. And we want to bring that up. So yesterday I shared for every one negative, we need 5 positives. That could be spending time with, that could be an act of kindness. We want to put emotional deposits in the bank, in their emotional tank. And thinking of creative ways to do that. If you have a kid that's not talking to you, send them a text, thinking about you today. Bought your favorite snack at the store so you can have it when you get home. Little touch points, little positive deposits. And you will start seeing that what you focus on is going to grow. And this is why every year we do a Valentine's challenge. Many of you came in through the Valentine's challenge. It just went crazy when we first did it. And it's all these affirmations, but they're fill in the blank. Like, wow, you put a lot of effort into whatever. You fill in the blank. Wow, I know you hate math. And I can see that, you put in the time last night. Good job. Or, I just want you to know that you are so funny. I asked my daughter when we were going through this hard time, I said, what do I say to you that makes you feel the best? What's the one thing? You know what she said to me? Out of everything she could have picked, when you laugh at my jokes, when you laugh at my jokes. Well, I thought she was funny. It's little things, right? Little things. So I have a challenge for you that in the next week or the next couple of days, we can do this in the Facebook group that's just especially for the workshop people. I want to challenge you to go one day without saying one negative, one reminder, one thing that they have to do, and say one positive thing. Send them a text thinking about you and see what happens. You will be amazed just by doing this one thing, because here's the thing, they are starving for positive feedback. The world is telling them they're not enough. We base so much of our own self-worth as moms based on our kids' performance. We just do. We want to do a good job. I know everybody that's here, you want to be the best mom you can be, the best caregiver you can be, the best grandma you can be. And so we get so caught up in that we feel like we have to be teaching, we have to be training, we have to be correcting, we have to be doing all this stuff. No, they're getting that from everywhere. And I just want you to know you have taught them a lot. Does that mean we don't guide them and remind them? We have to do some of that. But what I want you to do is I want you to bring that down and I want to bring up the focusing on the positive. Pumpkin. I love it. Woohoo! $15 gift cards. That's why you want to come on time tomorrow so you can hear the word because tomorrow's $20 gift cards. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Awesome. Awesome. Now, this is what you got to do really quickly. Jen's going to pick your names out of the chat, but I want you to email her. Count where you're at and email Jen, Jen, at momsoftweensandteens.com and say it was one of the top 10. Okay. So she knows your email, so she can give it to me and I can send you the Amazon gift card. Okay. So there she just put it in Jen at momsoftweensandteens.com. Oh, did I say? Oh, I thought you said 8. 8, excuse me. 8 people. The top 8 that said pumpkin first will win a $15 Amazon gift card. 8 people. Okay. So we're clear. All right. Number 4, and lastly, before we go into Q&A, we need to parent ourselves first. We need to parent ourselves first. Inner Circle moms know we work on this a lot. How do we reparent ourselves? What does this mean, Cheryl? There is nothing more important than investing in yourself and your family. Nothing more important. It's just true. We spend so much money on investing in this and that, buying this and that. But I want you to know that your investment in yourself and your family during these pivotal years, it will pay off for years to come. And in fact, what I am the biggest believer here at Moms of Tweens and Teens, and if you listen to the podcast, I say it in the intro, is we are changing generational patterns. We are breaking it, but it is not easy to break those patterns when we are so familiar. We're on the hamster wheel, right? And it's very hard to give what you didn't get. Very hard. And so vesting our time and energy like you're doing right now and our own growth, it's priceless. And tomorrow I'm going to share with you how you can do that in a real tangible way during this pivotal time. Because it's kind of like going to the doctor. If I've got an ailment, I kind of magically think it's going to go away. But that's probably a bad example because sometimes it does. But if I've got a big, wound and it's infected and it's not going away, we're wasting time, right? If we don't get that support. So that's what we're here to do. And I'm going to share more of that tomorrow. The Inner Circle does open tomorrow and I'll tell you about it. But I want you to be able to learn these things. And these workshops are awesome. You're great, but they won't change patterns because our patterns get deeply rooted in us. And it's really hard to break out and learn these skills. So what do we do if we want to reparent ourselves first? Well, first we invest ourselves. We interact with our kids primarily based on how we were interacted with as kids. It's just true. I hate that. And if you go back to your own upbringing and you think, okay, what would have happened if I did this or I did that? Did I see myself as a bad kid? Because when we can reparent those parts of ourselves, we can then give it to our kids. Okay, we have to change the language, right? So we can speak differently to our kids. All right, and then step 2 is to learn to identify your own emotions. So when we reparent ourselves, we spend a lot of time recognizing how we feel and naming it to tame it. So how am I feeling? Then we go through this whole thing of like, okay, what am I feeling? What's the story I'm telling myself? And then how am I normally reacting based on that? And then what is the truth and what do I need to do differently? And that's kind of the path that we take and what we realize, what we work on. And it's super helpful to start recognizing our emotions and what are those messages that we're telling ourselves. And then step 3 is once you can identify your emotions, you can begin to start regulating them. And then you can start supporting your kids. And then step 4, set step 4 underneath reparent yourself. 2, identify your step 3, regulating your identifying emotions in order to regulate them. And step 4 is model what you're feeling for your kids. So you're modeling. Once we can do this, we can model. So in closing, here's what this sounds like. Wow, I'm just noticing I'm feeling really anxious today based on that presentation I have for work. I'm feeling really sad about grandma today, that she's been struggling. I'm just noticing I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling sad. I'm really missing grandpa. You know, I haven't gotten out of the house today and I'm just really feeling low energy. Or I'm really feeling like overwhelmed by the mess in the house. And it would make me so happy if you would help me a little bit here to pick up some stuff. You know, sharing your feelings with your kids, it doesn't take a whole lot. They're usually like those 30-second interactions. Wow, I'm just noticing. And then your kids know what's going on with you. Man, you know, I'm arguing with dad, you know, and I'm sorry. This isn't you. This is just me. Dad and I are going to work it out. But you know what? We've just been having an argument. You don't need to tell them too much. You don't want to weigh them down. You're including them in how you're feeling. And then also, when you're having reactivity, it's really important to have a healthy outlet. So those of you that were sharing, I don't really have anybody, come tomorrow and really think about joining our inner circle, because that's what we do. Because if we don't have a healthy outlet, we leak it onto our kids. We leak it out. And so we have a safe place where we can come and we hold the bucket and you can be like, this is what's happening. And I'll tell you more on how we do that. So in closing, I want you to think about those 3 S's: safe, seen, and soothed. And I want you to think about those 4 keys that we talked about. Seek to connect with their heart first. Don't take the bait. I love my moms in their circle are like, I took the bait. Don't take the bait. So funny. Think about, what do you love about your kid? You might, if you're a journaler, you might want to write it down, because you might have to start retraining your brain to see them through a different lens. What's great about them? What do you love about them? Because there's so much good stuff that we often miss because our glasses are focused on the negative. And then thinking about how you can parent yourself first. So tomorrow we're going to talk about, and this is, yesterday I was saying I was going to share about influence. This is how we influence. And tomorrow we're going to talk more about influence and how we can raise our kids to be resilient with coping with anxiety and all those emotions. So we're going to talk more about influence and how do we help our kids to be responsible. My kid's totally unmotivated. What do I do to motivate them? We'll talk about that. So tomorrow is where the rubber meets the road. So before we end and go to questions, I know we went a little over and I'm willing to stay a little bit later. I want you to share what's like the biggest takeaway from today. What is your biggest takeaway? Yeah. Shannon, thank you. Yeah, because Shannon's in our inner circle. We go there to vent and get support by like-minded moms. We learn from Cheryl and the team, and also the moms in the inner circle are so wise, having been there and walked the walk onto the other side. Yeah, thank you. Don't take the bait, Kim. I love it. You're going to start seeing that where you take the bait all over the place and how they'll hook you. And remember, they say the darndest things at this age. So don't take it personally. They just do. And a lot of times they're testing. A lot of times they're frustrated about what's going on at school. And so they come home and they take it out on you by saying something that's going to bait you. And then they get all their frustration out. So we don't want to do that. Michelle, I have a lot to learn. I love that. I do too. We are always in this growth process. So thank you for saying that. I love it. I feel excited for you. Acknowledging my emotions, Amanda. Curie, be curious. Um, so relieved and empowered. I'm so glad, Christy. It helps me to go back and watch video clips of when my son was a toddler. I know having a picture of them and you're, right where you can see it of when they were a little kid, right? Can really help. Model being aware of and expressing feelings. Jessica, that I'm not the only one that is taking the bait. Absolutely not. We're all like over here, right? Just eating bait for breakfast. Good morning. And then, they snarl or they growl at you and we're off to the races. Seek to connect with our heart. I love that you love that. Take a step back before I go with questioning why she's doing what she's doing. Oh, yeah. We just want to pelt them with questions, right? And we want to step back because remember, they're like feral cats. Thank you for saying that because, Amy, what I don't want you guys to do, what you all, now that I live in Texas, I don't want what you all to do. I'm from the Midwest. We say you guys, even if you're gals. But anyway, I'm glad you're saying that because what I don't want you to do is go digging. Sometimes we go digging for pain, and we don't want to do that. We want to be a little lighter. Curiosity is really helpful with that, to hold it lightly and just be curious and to know you don't have to know the answer. You're just curious. When something shows up, it's like, you seem like you're angry. Is everything okay? Yes. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm here to talk to if you want to talk. Sounds like you had a hard day today. Shut up. Like less is more. Okay. So I'm going to go over to the questions. Let's see. Parent myself first, Kate. I love that. Find the truth in every criticism. I love that. Is it Thembecca? Am I saying it right? Thembecca? That's a pretty name. That changed my life. And that's kind of I'm glad that you got that because I think that's kind of a advanced concept that's hard because especially when we have a lot of shame, but looking for the truth in every criticism, just because your kid tells you you're unfair doesn't mean you're a bad parent. They just see it as unfair because remember, developmentally, they want what they want when they want it. They want instant gratification and they live in an instant gratification world. So of course they do. So we could say, I know it's got to be frustrating. It just seems really unfair, doesn't it? So yes, make sure you put your questions. Thank you, Jen, in the Q&A so that I can see them because it's too much to go through. All right, so I'm going to launch in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love this. Teresa, having been in the inner circle, I've learned and I'm practicing more self-forgiveness and doing more repair and connecting. It's made such a difference in our relationship. Thank you, Teresa. I love that. I love hearing that. That's why I get up in the morning. Self-forgiveness. Those of you, please come tomorrow and hear about the inner circle and how those of you that are just in deep shame and are feeling, guilty and like you're failing, come tomorrow. Okay. You're going to find it really encouraging. Okay. Is it weird that my 15-year-old daughter is becoming very close to a 30-year-old woman? My daughter babysits for her, but when there isn't kids, they are always together. Now I'm going to sit down here. Well, answer these. I like to kind of take a seat, like a little fireside chat. Okay, this is really good. So if we were meeting together, I would say, and you don't have to answer this, what is concerning about that? Okay. So we want to get curious using these tools about how we're feeling. How do I feel about that? My daughter is becoming close with a 30-year-old woman. Okay. How do I feel about that? So I'm going to use myself as an example. I feel jealous. I feel jealous. Like, why? I want to say it's a good thing because they have this mentor, and I don't know if this woman's a good influence or not, but let's just say they are, and they have this mentor and they're sharing with her all this stuff and they're talking and they're opening up to them, and I feel jealous. So asking ourselves, how do we feel about that? Okay. Then we want to be curious, right? About, wonder, what she sees in her. And is this somebody, now you also have to know context matters, somebody they met online, right? That's going to be a very different answer I would give you. Have you met them? Do you know anything about this person and what kind of influence they are in their lives? What would you like to know about this person in order for you to feel comfortable with your daughter being friends with this person? Now, 15, you can't control as much, right? But you can't control it all, really. I mean, there's certain steps you could take to say, this isn't okay with me. I'm not comfortable with this. Um, there needs to be a lot of discussion happening. So this would be like a coaching session where I would work with you on how to deal with this. But I think that there's just some really good questions to ask and to have a conversation. So here's the thing with my kids going to like youth groups, and there's older mentors in the group. For me, if I knew who it was, if I knew that this person was a positive influence, I was like, you know what? This is good. They need a third party influence in their lives because a lot of the time they can't hear it from us, but they can hear it better from somebody else. So I would probably want to get to know this person. Um, and of course we have to, we don't want to, we have to kind of weigh that, I guess, because we want to get to know them, but at the same time, we want to also trust our kid as far as not overstepping, because it sounds like your daughter trusts this person and confides in this person. This is a lot why therapists won't always tell you what was shared in the therapy session, because they want to build trust. So you kind of have to, tread lightly. But for me, I would want to know who this person is, what they see in this person. And I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's weird. However, if it's somebody that they've met online, that would raise some red flags for me. And I would want to know more information. So it sounds like she's babysitting for her. But I would just want to find, hey, what do you like about this woman? And then I would also want to ask the question around, what do you, um, what would you're spending a lot of time with her. And I don't know, this is just me, but I'm so glad you have her, but I'm a little jealous. And I'm thinking, like, I want to be fun. Like, what are you doing with her that you'd like to do more of with me? That might be good information. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Can your kids be comfortable when telling you things? I feel like I don't want to hear everything that she says. How do you put the boundary there? That's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Okay. Totally. Totally. So, yeah, I, first of all, I just want to say, I think it's really good that they want to talk to you. So I think that you can put a boundary depending upon what it is. And you can say, you know what? I am so glad that you can talk to me. I just want you to know that. Thank you for opening up. Then I would be curious about, okay, what kind of things are they telling me that I don't want to hear? And why don't I want to hear them? So I can't leave that out. So, is it because I'm uncomfortable talking about a certain topic that they really need to process through? That would just be something I would be curious about. Is this something that's really uncomfortable for me to hear? Or is this something that I just don't really want to know about, and it's just too much information for me. Sometimes kids, when they're going through, especially boys, when they're going through puberty, they might share a little too much. And you can just say something like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm sure glad you're talking to me about this, but that might just be a little too much. You can use humor. But at the same time, sometimes they're processing out loud and they need to talk about these things. So I think but I would never want to shut down the conversation. And I would want them to know. Sometimes you have a kid that's just dumping a lot on you. And I was talking to Jen about this, and we've got to set a 5-minute timer and just say, you got five. Some of you have kids that are just like, they're just barfing on you all day, when they're home. And you go, okay, 5-minute timer, vent, let it all out. You got 5 minutes. I'm not going to say anything. Just say what you need to say. But after the 5 minutes is up, the timer, then you're done. That worked for my daughter. That worked for Jen's son. Okay, any experience with getting a teen boy to stop lying? Okay, so I've written a lot of articles on this, or I shouldn't say a lot, but several. And I just want to tell you, it's very common. It's normal. They're going to lie. They're going to lie. So if we can just know that they're not going to tell the truth. And there's a lot of reasons for that, a lot of research. So go to momsoftweensandteens.com and type into the search bar lying. You'll see a lot of my articles come up on it and read through those. But there's the biggest reasons that kids lie is they don't want to disappoint us. Research shows that's number one. Number two is they don't want to get in trouble. Number three, they want to do their own thing. And they have shame. And another reason that they lie is because if they get found out, they're going to be punished or they might get shamed. And so they don't want us to know about that. My son went through a pretty big lying phase, a couple years of lying, and we would find stuff out. And one of the reasons, I'm just going to share my personal story, that he lied and was in high school. Kids actually, statistically lie more in middle school than they do high school, although in high school maybe it's omission, they just don't tell you a lot. And middle school, they lie about it when you ask them. But anyway, and the reason that he was lying is because he was trying so hard to be perfect. And he wanted to be perfect. He didn't want to disappoint us. He was the easy kid, the low maintenance kid. So he had that kind of label on his head, but he was rebelling a little bit. And that's normal. They're going to rebel a little bit. Remember the brakes and steering. They're trying to figure out who they are apart from you. And so once I could kind of normalize that and talk to him about that, like, wow, I just am curious. You lied, and I really want to be a safe place for you. I want you to feel like you can tell me what's really going on. And so I'm just curious, what caused you to lie about it? Were you afraid you were going to, and then shut up. Okay, just listen. I don't know. Okay, that's a fair answer. That you don't know. And I'm just wondering if you're afraid of my response and you're afraid of getting in trouble. Sometimes they lie because maybe we need to tweak our limits. Sometimes maybe, they lie about where they are because they think we're going to be too strict. But it's worth a conversation. So I do this whole formula, and I'll talk about it tomorrow, like saying what you're noticing. I'm noticing that you lied about this. And I really want us to have an honest relationship. And also, I want you to feel like you can be honest and tell the truth, because when we lie, we carry that around with us and it weighs us down. And a lot of times, if we lie, then we got to lie about the lie, and then we got to lie about the lie. And I don't want you to feel like you have to do that with me. And so I'd rather have you feel like you can come clean about it and just tell me. And then we can talk about it, because remember, all behavior, there's a reason. There's a reason he's lying. And shame could be it. Being punished could be it. So get curious. My quick answer is get curious about the why and have a conversation. And here's what I want. Now, here's the thing. Our kids are going to not tell us everything, and they're going to choose behaviors that we don't like. So also just know they're not going to want us to know about that. And that's normal. And they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to do things that we don't want them to do. So I just think that's really important for us to know, because I didn't think they were going to. I was like the mom that ate humble pie, and my kid was, I thought, not my kid. And then before you know it, I'm eating the pie, right? The, the help pie, in the movie. That's what I felt like. It's very humbling. So I hope that's helpful. Next one. Okay, I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to stay on here. Whoever has to go, thank you so much. Join us tomorrow. You're going to get so much more out of this. We're going to do more of a deep dive, and thank you for coming. So anybody that has to go, but I'm going to answer this next two questions. All right. Addressing behavior with kiddos with rejection sensitive dysmorphia. I say I'm not criticizing you, or I'm talking about X behavior, not you as person or similar. Even when I affirm, or approach in different ways, kiddo sometimes drives into self-shaming. Even when I spend a lot of time focusing on positive affirmations to kiddo and everyday functioning. Okay, so good. Thank you, thank you, thank you for asking this question. Here's the thing about affirmation. Our kids are smart. A lot of times they feel like we're trying to pump them up because something's wrong with them. So what I would say is I would address this differently with this kid. And I would say something like, I hear you. I hear that you have so many thoughts, negative thoughts going on in your brain. That's got to be really hard. That's got to be really hard, isn't it? So you're not trying to fix it. See, a lot of times we try to pump them up with positives. And I know I said focus on the positive, but that's the flip side of it. And we can just say, you know what? I know that you've got all these thoughts. And you know what? I've got a lot of those same thoughts going on in my head. I can be really critical about myself too. Because here's the thing. If we're really hard on ourselves, chances are our kids are going to be hard on themselves too. I hate that. I hate it. And so we can normalize it. I have those thoughts going through my head. And you know what? We all have them. We all have them. So I would just speak to that shame. Don't try to fix it. Just hear, see them, see them. Make them know they're not crazy. Don't try to overly reassure them and pump them up. I hear you've got all these messages of like, you're not good enough. That is so hard to have those messages of you're not good enough. It's really painful. And you know what? That comes into my life too, where I can be comparing myself to other people. What are some of those? You can sprinkle it like seeds. What are some of those things that you tell yourself? What's yours? I've asked my daughters this. I haven't asked my son, but what are some of yours? And we talk about this in the inner circle. What are some of yours? And they're all different. It's my fault. I'm bad. I'm stupid. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have whatever she has. I don't ever have whatever he has. If only I was this way. If only I was that way. You know what? I don't know why I'm not accepted in that group. Those are the in moms over there, and I'm here on the outside. What's wrong with me? Oh, look at the way she looked at me. She doesn't really want to talk to me. I must seem like I'm weird. I feel like I have leprosy. I mean, that's how our kids are feeling, but I don't know. I can relate to all of that. So I would just not try to pump her up, and I would normalize a lot of these struggles and these challenges. I'm so grateful, Kristen, that you did too. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Um, Sarah, okay, next question. So I hope that's helpful. How to encourage kids to feel safe to tell us when they are in trouble or make a mistake while still having consequences. So that's a real, tightrope, right? And here's the thing. We want to have consequences, right? We want to have consequences, which doesn't mean we just accept bad behaviors, right? So I love this question. How do we do that? Um, and thank you. The mom said that was helpful. We can say something like, you know what? I went to this workshop and they really talked about like, gosh, it really convicted me. I don't know if this is what you'd say. Really convicted me. Like I can see how you tell me something and I'm always jumping in there and I'm trying to fix it or I'm trying to make you feel better. I'm really going to work on listening. I'm going to work on listening to you. And I realize I haven't been good at that. And then you just shut up. So you start there, and I'm really going to work on it. I want you to feel safe to talk to me. And then after you've done that a little bit, this is and you know what? I know that you're going to make mistakes and I make mistakes too. So make your home a place where you can mess up. The families that are healthier are the families that are vulnerable and accept the truth and the reality that we are going to mess up. We're just going to. I mess up. Oh my gosh. I could tell you something that just happened today. My husband and I messed up about something and there was a consequence to it and it was not pretty. And I'm like, okay, we co-created that. That's why that happened. And, I still mess up. So we do. And we just own it and we learn from it and we move on. So sometimes my question, I guess, to all of us is did they learn from it? I get this a lot from moms. Like, I need to have a consequence because they did this and they got in trouble at school and now they're expelled for a day and are suspended for a day. And what should their consequence be when they come home? And I'm like, okay. Well, tell me, what happened? Well, they got pulled into the principal's office. They tell me the whole thing. How are they feeling? Oh, they're feeling terrible. Like they are just so embarrassed. They're feeling terrible about it. And I'll say, you know what? I think they're feeling it. They're feeling it already. I think that's consequence enough. Other times, maybe it's repeated behavior and it's like, hey, this is what I'm noticing. And we need to sit down. We need to talk about this because I I'm wondering about it. This is what I want. I want you to blank, fill in the blank, and I don't want to be arguing about this with you. And how can we come to some agreement about what our limit is going to be? Now, I have a whole workshop course that is all on boundaries, and it's in 3 or 4 parts, maybe 5 parts. There's worksheets, there's all kinds of stuff. Some of you have done it. It's gotten amazing reviews and feedback. So this is detailed on how you set boundaries and consequences. But I guess I would start there. I would say I want to be a safe place. Think about, is the consequence, are they feeling it? If they are, do they really need one? What did they learn? And then if it's repeated behavior, you need to have that talk. Okay. Next one. How would you tell a child they're acting jealous without wording it so bluntly? I get curious. This is one of my inner circle moms. So she's really, I know that I think you are saying the right thing. I'm just guessing that. But if you see them being jealous, I always bring it back to us. Who am I jealous of? Why am I jealous of that person? What is it? Because see, if we're jealous of somebody, we have a yearning. We have a longing. We want to be seen. We want to be accepted. We want that attention they're getting. We maybe think they're so smart. Oh gosh, she's so whatever, or he's so whatever. And look at them. And why can't I be as smart as they are? Why aren't I as articulate? What's wrong with me that I'm not as popular as them? So, it's pointing her to a longing she has. So I wouldn't tell her she's jealous. I would go, oh, yeah, you know, I'm sensing that there's just something about her that you really are like, oh, I wish, is there something about her that, or yeah, I can tell she really bugs you. Tell me what bugs you about her. Mm, listen to that because probably she needs to get it out. And then through the getting it out about their jealousy and processing it, then it can be just you want to normalize it because who of us here isn't jealous of something about somebody else? Jen, I can be jealous of Jen who's behind the scenes because man, she is so smart. She remembers the names to everything. I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. But see, I have learned, and I'm not perfect in any way about this, but I have learned to accept myself more and to love myself more with my limitations. So I'm in a better position today than I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So I can be okay with that. But at this age, they're not. They're not. And so I think acknowledging it and letting them express it and get it out. And then we could say, oh, it sounds like in some ways, maybe, do you think you might be like, because I'm relating to this a little bit in how I see this one woman and I look at her and I go, you know, because here's the thing when we're jealous of somebody, we want to pull them down. Notice that whenever I feel insecure, I'm going to either go one down or I'm going to go superior on the person. And that might be what they're doing. So I would be curious and I would have more of those kind of conversations. Okay, thank you. The answer to rejection sensitivity was helpful and helped me realize one reason I may have been overly positive. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So I love this. I love all of you for coming. I am just amazed at how many of you stayed on. You are awesome. Holy smokes. You stayed on for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, some of you. So, gosh, let's just give that to ourselves. And I want to hear one takeaway. What's one thing as we hang up that you're just going to focus on? One thing. Anybody want to share? And join the Facebook group because we're going to be sharing in there as well. Oh, Jessica, thank you for your openness. Yes. Thank you. I don't know if thank you to everyone for being open. Thank you to everyone. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Jen just shared the Facebook group again. So I would say in closing, yeah, ask my son, what is a thing I say that makes him feel the best? I love that. Not reacting immediately. Thanks, really needed this today. Christy, so many things. I love that. Thank you. I love that. And if there's one thing that I can I'm noticing, love that, Christine, impart to you is you are not failing. You're here. You are in process. Your tweener teen is in process. And this is not easy stuff to navigate. And we all have feelings. So we need to give ourselves a lot of grace. And the more that we can give ourselves grace, the more gentle and kind we can be with ourselves, the more we're going to be with our kids. And no, it does not mean we allow for bad behavior, right? I'm not saying that. But we're going to actually calm our own limbic systems down and be able to move into seeing, being curious, being that safe person with our kids, the kind of kids they really need. Normalize a lot of things. They're figuring out who they are. Listen and flow along. Yes. My kids need to hear affirmations often. Good. Yes, Kaylee. Yep. Yeah. And that means we need to be affirming ourselves as well, rather than seeing all the things that we're not doing, seeing all the things that we are. So thank you for coming. Katrina, I'm so glad that you feel encouraged. Yeah, when feeling scared raising a teen son. I'm so glad. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And I cannot wait for tomorrow. And it's going to be a great group. And we're going to have a little surprise at the end. So I cannot wait for you to join me tomorrow and all the other moms. So love you tons and have a great rest of the day. Okay, bye bye.